the darkest nights, we find our light. Battered souls, but we won't lose sight. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial we carry on. Surviving together, never alone. Through every trial we carry on. Surviving together, we stand tall. United forever. Strength and courage will overcome. Oh, surviving together, victorious, never, never alone. Hand in hand, we'll face the unknown.
We see you, we hear you, and we believe you. Hey, everyone. How you doing today? Oh, it is a wonderful, hot, humid Saturday here in Michigan. Welcome to Surviving Together, a safe space for trauma survivors to connect and build community on their healing journey, as well as providing trauma-related education for all. Thank you to all who are here today so far. I see we have Tommy and Mike F. are both here. Charlie Hobo's lurking. Crystal is here. Welcome, 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 guys. We are going to have a great show for you today. I am going to be bringing on here in just a moment a wonderful person and just an incredible personality. Her name is Fern Ronay. She has just been launching her own YouTube channel, and she is going to share with us her story of trauma today. And this is just a little bit different than some of the things that we've done in the past, because we talk about trauma a lot here, and we talk about big T trauma and little t trauma, but there are so many different things that constitute trauma that we may not realize or recognize, or that people talk about so much. So we're going to hear her story, and I'm sure it's going to resonate with you, the types of trauma she's going to talk about. And so without further ado, let me bring her on here on stage.
Hi.
Hi, Fern. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. Fern is joining us from LA. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. So
Yes.
so thankful to have you on here today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm glad it all worked out, and I'm glad we spoke the other day. And the way you were describing it, like I didn't know if I was the right fit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Absolutely. And I want to read something here as we start, because I pulled this up as kind of an official, what is trauma? We talk about big T trauma being, war and natural disasters, and, a sexual assault, and there's little t trauma like CPTSD and, constant bullying and racism and things of that nature. But really, trauma it's so much more than that. Trauma refers to any deeply distressing or disturbing experience that overwhelms an individual's ability to cope, causing lasting emotional, psychological, or physical effects. And so this can result from so many types of things, and it is so subjective. One of the things we do talk about often on here is how individual trauma is, because it depends on the age that it happens, your cultural background, what are you used to, your developmental stage at the time. So the same two people can experience the same event and come out of it with totally different experiences.
Yes.
So, one of the things that we were talking about, you said that there were kind of three major events in your life that you later looked back and realized wow, those were actually traumatic events for me,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that you had no idea at the time.
Absolutely. Yes. So I grew up in, if you had told me, even in my early 40s, how was your childhood? I would always be like, it was fine. Like, I had a great childhood. My parents are even still married. I felt safe. I was taken care of. I had a perfectly fine childhood, but I was always nervous, and I always just discounted it. Like, I come from a long line of nervous Italian women. So, and I just was like, that's just, I guess, our personalities. But I also felt like everyone else felt that way. So it took me a long time to realize why they were like that. And so my grandmother had her own event. Her parents, my great grandparents, owned a bakery on Stone Street in Newark, New Jersey, in the early part of last century. And the mafia used to come around to each of the businesses collecting money.
Wow.
And my great grandmother would stuff my grandmother and her two brothers in a pillowcase and hide them in the back of the bakery when they would come. And she would talk about it like it was that was something that happened. Yeah. And so it took me a long time to realize, if that happened to you in your childhood, you're probably going to end up with trauma. They didn't have the word for it. I didn't
Right.
until the last 10 years. Um,
Yeah.
and that would make you a nervous person. And she was very rigid about things. Everything had to be a certain way. And it made my mother nervous because in their house, they would always have to have the clocks a half hour ahead. Even though they knew what time, they always had to be on time. And so then my mother brought that to me, not realizing it. It's just like the way they are, like very certain, rules and rigid, and
Right.
being late would make them nervous, and they would be emotionally dysregulated if something like that, happened. And I realize now that was my grandmother's way of keeping herself safe. If she was on time and she had a good job, and she would be able to be kept safe. So
Control.
yes, absolutely. So I I thought, like, yeah, that's just how I grew up. That's just, you know, I also think I was born this way. I was born naturally maybe anxious. Um, and then, in the generation we grew up, there wasn't as much information. So even in my 20s, my late
Right.
20s, I was reading, I think it was like a Glamour magazine, and they were describing what anxiety is, and how if you have anxiety, you assume that everyone else is always nervous constantly because that's your baseline. And I was like,
Right.
it was so eye-opening to me, and if only we had the internet the way we have it now, I would have probably started my healing journey so much sooner, but I just didn't have. It's weird to say that we didn't have access to information, but we
We
did.
didn't have the
Yes,
words.
yes. We didn't have
We
the
were
words,
just
we didn't have.
oversensitive kids. We were,
Yes,
you did just, roll with it a little bit more, you don't need
exactly.
thicker skin, that sort of thing.
Exactly. So here I am in my late 20s being like, everyone else isn't nervous. Like, I've been white knuckling it through life thinking everyone else is too. And
Right.
so then it occurred to me like, wow, I have anxiety, but I didn't do anything about it. I didn't get therapy. I didn't do anything because I just didn't have the tools really. I didn't have access to understand how to get the tools. So,
It was just part of your personality, and that's
exactly,
what you saw
exactly,
around you, right? Generational
exactly.
trauma is a thing. We
Yes,
pass it on to the next generation, not really realizing what we're doing, and it
yes.
sounds like that's totally what happened in your family.
Yes. And then I started thinking like, what happened to me in my childhood that like made me nervous? And I had a first grade teacher who was, I realize now, and I didn't have the words for it then, but I knew it then, that she was very arrogant. My husband, when I would tell him about this, he'd be like, maybe she just had a bad day that day. And I'm like, no, she was on a power trip. She was as arrogant as can be. And I remember getting screamed at by her in front of the whole class, and the principal was standing in the doorway, and my whole body lit up. And I started kind of like talking to myself in my mind. I think I was dissociating. So I was like
Mhm.
out of my body. And it was the first core, like that shame wound
Yeah.
that stayed with me in my DNA forever. So after that, I would want to be as good as can be and an overachiever. That would keep me safe if I was the perfect student. And, like I could be a brat at home sometimes because I was stressed out and I had a dysregulated
Right.
nervous system. But to the outside world, they'd be like, oh, Jennifer, what a good kid. Like, as long as I'm a good kid, like I'll be safe in the world and I won't get yelled at and embarrassed and shamed.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
exactly the same, exactly the same.
Yeah.
Because at home, it was like the only place that you were like, okay, I may get yelled at, but they still love me on some
Right.
level, right?
Right.
And you
Right.
said your home environment was kind of chaotic with just yelling
Yeah.
and, and
My parents didn't fight. Like, I've never seen my parents fight, but my mother has that, like, and she's the best mother in the world. And, like, I need my parents to live to 100. They're still alive. Like, I love them to pieces. And, but because of like their own way of
right.
growing up, my mother has that very like Italian mother. Well, two things. She's like yelly. Like, she'll be like, I saw a meme once that said, if you want to know what it feels like to be Italian, I almost just fell down the stairs and my mother got mad at me. That's an Italian mother. Like it would fall and be like, what is wrong with you? Like, she's just like a nervous Italian mother who is like a yelly person, and we couldn't be late. And so for
my father, 100%.
Yeah, he was military, right?
Yes.
So I just grew up with that. And if you ask me, I was like, I have a perfectly fine home. I'm not abused or anything, like
Right.
it was fine.
It was what you knew.
Yes. Yeah. And so for someone like me, I think that is probably CPT. Am I saying it right? Like PTSD. PTSD. That I didn't realize till years later. And for the longest time, I'm going to be 50 this year, up until like my early 40s, I would joke about my first grade teacher and just be like, she was the source of all of my anxiety. And then I realized the more I learned, like, actually, when you're 6 years old and your brain is still developing at that age and your sense of self is still developing, that actually is a traumatic event.
Yeah.
And then I gave it more credence and it stayed with me. And then I learned more about somatic therapy, and I found we talked about this, about someone who does EMDR, and I'm happy to talk about it. But yeah, that was the first event. And
I think having your principal standing there too was just kind of that added level of, it's not only my teacher, but then you have another, like, the authority figure in school standing there, right? And who probably didn't say anything.
Right. And I was like, didn't say anything. And I was a kid. So this is so funny now, but I had seen Annie and I was obsessed with Annie. And I was like, if I'm not good and I'm being yelled at in front of the principal, like, am I going to go to an orphanage? Like, are they going to take me? Oh my God. Am I going to be taken from my parents? Like, that's where my mind would go. And my whole life I would catastrophize. Like, I would go to like if something didn't go well, I'm a lawyer. Like, if something didn't go well at work, I'd be like, I'm getting fired.
Right.
And now I see this in some of the younger women that I know who are lawyers, and like they go to, and I'm like, you have the same wounds I do, and I want to help you. They have to do it on their own path and their own time. But I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of healing to be done. I see it in a lot of people.
When did you first realize, and we'll get back to the other incidences, I hate that word. When did you first realize that this was trauma to your 6-year-old?
Yeah. If you listen to some of my early podcasts, I talk about it, I joke about it. And then thanks to social media, and social media can be very, it can cause a lot of damage, but it can do a lot of healing too. And I learned so much. Things showed up in my feed that made me go like, oh God, maybe that was like a real trauma, and I've been discounting it for so long. And then I discovered the book, The Body Keeps the Score, and it made so much sense. Yeah. And the examples in that book, and I recommend it to everyone, and I say the examples in that book are so extreme, but the premises, the lessons learned apply to all traumas.
100%. And we've talked about this book on here as well. And actually, I just did a show not too long ago, a few weeks ago, on it, and on some new things that came out of it. And it's amazing to think that that book is 20 years old now,
Yeah.
and the information out of that. And you're right, social media, if you're using it there is so much education out there. It was actually a video that I discovered CPTSD. I was like, because I'm like, oh, I do share these ADHD kind of tendencies, and yeah, I've got trauma, and I can see PTSD in that, and it's just. And then when they went through CPTSD, I went, ka-ding,
Yes.
like the light bulbs just went off.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it just amazed, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So you talked about, you kind of had, I think you said your senior year in high school,
Yeah.
and you had a bad relationship. Now,
Yes. I
was
had a
it
boyfriend
toxic?
no, he cheated on me. Like he called like my friend, I say it was like the poor version of like Gossip Girl. It was like the not Richard, the Belleville version, not the poor, like the Belleville version. And yes, it was very traumatic. It was such a betrayal, like a betrayal that stayed in my body. And I am so thankful that even though, healing has to come from within and you can't depend on external things. I went to college and I had 2 serious relationships in college, and they were wonderful. I had trust issues, but thankfully they didn't trigger them. They were
Right.
faithful, 2 faithful, great guys. And it was very healing for me because I had such trust issues from that. So then I had other boyfriends, and I met my wonderful husband.
You learn that you learn what a healthy relationship is.
Yes.
And you learn that
Yeah.
it's possible, having somebody show you that kind of love and that kindness. And
Yes.
that is definitely very, very healing. I mean, it's a support system.
Yes, it was very healing. And then, so I'm married. I'm like, my husband's the greatest. We both think we won the lottery, but I never like gave credence to that wound ever again until I was watching a show called Poldark, which is on PBS, and it's a show that takes place in the 1700s. And the main character, not to spoil it, cheats on his wife. And I thank gosh for like Reddit and the Poldark fan club on Facebook. I was like, I'm not the only one who's losing sleep over this show, because there was just something about it, and it opened up this whole wound that was maybe just, it was scabbed over and it was picked again. And I am almost 50 years old, and I think about my 17-year-old self, and I just feel so bad for her. And I feel so bad for the wife in this show.
It was
And
triggering.
It was so triggering. I was literally losing sleep over it. And then it inspired so I write novels, and my next book, my therapist was like, the best thing that can come from this is some people ruminate and they have no outlet. You're thinking about this and you can put it into something. And it inspired my next book, and I used it for good.
That is awesome.
Yes. Yeah. But yes, it's so interesting to me that something can happen so long ago and can be basically forgotten. And I really forgot so much of it and so many details. And then I remembered so much more. And I was like, that was over 30 years ago. I don't care. But those feelings, I felt so badly for this wife character in the show.
It just brought all those feelings to the surface, and then you've got to kind of look at them and analyze them and think about them. And it's so fortunate that you had healthy relationships after that, and were able to put that experience in perspective.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I remember, being at that age and being in a relationship, and how devastating, something like that would be, because you are just at that cusp, that beginning cusp, right, of being able to truly love on a deeper level than puppy love, right? And then to have that trust just ripped from you. I mean, that's absolutely devastating.
Yeah, it was terrible.
And I do want to talk about your writing kind of after we get,
Sure.
through all of this. But so did you journal during any of your earlier periods, or?
I would always try to, ever since like maybe 13, I would always try to journal, and then I would go back and read them and be so embarrassed, which I know is like part of the shame wound, and then I would throw the journals out. So I wish
Oh,
now I wish
no.
I had them because I could read them and
Yes.
be like, I'm not that person anymore, so like I could read them and not like cringe.
Right.
Like probably remember so much more, but so I would journal on and off, and I still journal on and off, and I find it very helpful before I go to bed if I have a lot on my mind. But I'm not a regular journaler.
Mhm.
But I am a regular, like, I try to think of 3 or more things I'm grateful for before I open my eyes. Like I try to
Oh,
do
yeah.
that, which I find very
Practicing
helpful.
gratitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I
Yeah.
always try and do that, and then I forget.
Yes.
It's like I have to put a note on my coffee maker, because that would be like the first thing that I would
Right,
see in
right.
the
That's a good idea.
because it's
Right.
like down, or put it on the cat food, because it's like I cut the cats get me up, I feed them, and I start the coffee, and that's
Yes.
like the morning routine.
That
And
would
maybe
be
I'll
smart.
remember to, maybe
Yeah,
I'll
that's
remember
habit
before I
stacking.
actually
Yes.
open my eyes and eventually
Yes.
before you get out of bed. But no, practicing gratitude is something we talk about as a positive coping skill here all the
Yes.
time. And you know, it is so powerful as a coping skill for our negative thoughts, and when we feel everything's going, and when we start to catastrophize. But it's one of those things, all of these positive coping skills are things we have to practice when we're doing well,
Yeah.
because you've got to be able to have access to them then when things aren't going well.
Yes.
And the fact that you do it, as a daily thing, as part of, being
Yes.
mindful, and do you find that it does start your day out just
It does,
your
and I
mental attitude's just a little
yeah.
different?
Yes, and speaking of writing, I did it when we lived in Chicago. So I grew up in New Jersey. I met my husband in New York City, and then he was transferred to Chicago. We lived there for 6 years, and now we're in LA. We've lived here for 11 years. But when we were in Chicago, I had left being a lawyer in New York, and in Chicago, I was like starting writing, and I did a blog for Chicago Now, which was part of the Chicago Tribune family. And my blog was called Stop and Blog the Roses, and I would write about my life, but I would always end it with 3 things to be grateful for. And I did it. I committed every day for a year. 365 days.
Wow.
I blogged, I wrote, and ended with 3 things I was grateful for. And I swear it changed my brain. It changed the chemistry of my brain, because I always tell this story, but it's I'll tell it on another podcast. But in the long story short, we moved from Chicago to LA. We brought our cat on the plane, and our cat went crazy in the airport and attacked like my husband. Bit my husband's hand. He spent his first 2 nights in LA in the hospital. Yeah, the cat went crazy. And so I was like, it was horrifying. It was really funny that it was. But I immediately was like, at least he didn't bite anybody else. At least we were still able to get on the plane and go to Chicago. At least I was immediately like on the plane sitting there. My husband's hands are blowing up like Mickey Mouse. I'm like, at least this didn't happen. At least this. I was so grateful that like if something like that's going to happen, there's still so much to be grateful for. It totally, that was like my prime example, but it totally changed my brain.
It's 100%, and people don't, we talk about the science behind it here sometimes. It's amazing, our neuroplasticity, the ability of our brain to be able to rewire itself. And we can talk about this just a little bit more when we get into your EMDR, but it does all of these positive coping skills that we do, practicing mindfulness, the practicing gratefulness, meditation. It is all about being able to rewire ourselves to go to that positive place and not go to that negative place.
Yes.
And it is possible. Yes. And I know when we first start off doing this, it can seem, especially from people who are coming from, an area of significant trauma and they've never dealt with it before, it seems almost impossible. And you're like, yeah, like okay, I'm going to say these 3 things and like all of a sudden I'm going to be better. Right. I mean, and it sounds almost silly, but it does, it adds up. And I think that it's wonderful that you did it for a 365 because it was that consistency
Yes.
that allowed all of those pathways to just be able to do that. And instead of going to, the most catastrophic
Yes.
event,
Yep.
you're able to look at the best thing. But I'm going to say your cat
Yes.
didn't just bite him. He mauled him. I mean,
He mauled him.
like,
Whenever we go through, like if we happen to have a layover in Chicago in like Midway, we're like, our DNA is on the floor. Like I was bleeding. My husband
you were
was
at Midway,
bleeding.
not O'Hara?
Yeah.
Oh my
Midway.
gosh,
So
that's
like,
hilarious.
and then we'll like laugh. Like when we think about it, it's hysterical. Like what we say, like, why didn't the EMT showed up? We were like, why didn't the TSA like stop us from getting on the plane? And I'm like, Howie, they were like this, like they had never seen anything like that. They were like,
Oh, Jesus.
so we're so lucky that we got past them. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very fortunate.
It's a crazy story.
Oh my gosh. But
yeah,
yeah,
you have to
you're
tell
right.
it on a live one of these days.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because that is that's significant.
I know, it was crazy.
And your husband, do you still have that cat?
He passed in 2017, but we talk to him all the time.
Oh, the fact that your husband still loved him after that.
Oh, we loved it. Yes, I know. We're very forgiving.
You're like, hey, it's Midway. We understand,
Right.
you're just kind of going nuts. I go a little crazy if I got to go through Chicago at all as well. So understandable.
Yes.
Oh, geez.
Yes.
So moving forward in your journey, I know that, and this is something that I think we don't talk about a lot, but having sudden losses, and whether that is of any type of family member. So it can be an animal. I mean, there's people who have had, cats or dogs for 20 years and all of a sudden they're not in your life anymore.
Yeah.
And, being an emotional support, or the loss of a family member, like what happened to you, can be extremely traumatic. And I don't think a lot of people realize it or think of it as a trauma. We just think of, well, it's grief, and it's things that we have to go through, right? People come and go out of our lives, and it's just the natural order of things. But especially, and you mentioned your case, it was very sudden. That can just be extremely overwhelming. If you don't mind, just kind of briefly take us through what happened.
6 weeks before I turned 30, my 21-year-old cousin was in the hospital for a kidney infection and ended up passing away suddenly. And it was like she passed in an accident. Like it was that sudden. Like she's in the hospital, she's fine. And then it was the shocking. It's not even the word. And it's been 20 years and I'll sometimes be like, I can't believe that happened. Like, I can't believe it. So my brother and I don't have first cousins, but my mom's best friend, and they live 3 blocks from us in our town and had 3 daughters, and those are my cousins. Like that's my aunt. Those are my cousins. And my mom talks to my aunt a million times a day. And then I would hear about Jamie, like Jamie's doing this, Jamie's doing that. She was a senior going into her senior year of college. And so
she
even
was
though
young.
Yeah. So even though it wasn't a sibling, this is the thing. I for a long time, I would be like, that's not my trauma because she wasn't my immediate family member. But I realized through therapy and the more I learned that it was my cousin. She is my cousin. And I remember, I could cry, but it's been 20 years. And I remember the day she was born. My mother walked into my bedroom and was like, Aunt Dottie had the baby in the middle of the night. And then obviously I remember the day she passed, and it was before and after. And for someone who had always been nervous, always had anxiety, something like that happening is like, see, like bad things do happen. Like what you're worried about, yeah, it can happen. And so it confirmed that for me in the worst way. And then I never fully acknowledged that I had PTSD after that. So every time the phone rings, even to this day, I'm like, what's the matter? Like if it's my mother.
Yeah.
So like I need to call her, but if she calls me, I get, my whole family knows to be like, everything's all right.
Let's just preface it.
Yeah.
Hi, everything's okay.
It's true. So I never fully acknowledged that, yes, I have PTSD. Absolutely. And I, until this year, it's been 20 years, I didn't fully acknowledge the role it played in my decision not to have children. My husband and I actively chose not to have kids. And my whole life I wanted kids. And then, I was getting into my late 30s and we both were like, thank God we landed on the same page, because that's the only thing you can't compromise on. Religion, money, anything. You can't have half a kid. So thankfully, we both were on the fence when we got married and then decided no. And I remember my gynecologist saying, like I said to my gynecologist, I don't think having a kid will make me happier. And she's like, I was like, I think I like my life. And she was like, you don't have a kid to make you happier. You have it because you have this overwhelming need to be a mother and have a child. And I was like, I don't have that. And that helped. And then, our values, some people, they have different values and families, one of them having a family, but my husband and I, we value freedom and creativity with no judgment. Some people value family, some people value other things, and we value freedom and creativity. And
you still value family. I mean, you love your mother and your cousins, and you've got so many people, and ALV was on my, in my chat the other day, and he's just like, oh, Fern's like a little sister to me. And I realized that he and your brother are best friends.
Each other's best man. Yes.
Yeah. So you do value family. You just didn't have that inherent need to have a child.
Right. And I think part of it was my values. And then part of it, until this year, I was like, that might have had something to do with it. I think I would have still chosen not to have children, but that helped cement it. I think the fear and that PTSD.
And that it happened at almost 30 for you. So you're kind of getting towards that. Because I had my son when I was 34. So I understand that, making that decision later in life. And it's, I'm so glad that you came to that and are comfortable, with your own decision. And, you and your husband, you're right, because it's something that, it definitely can cause a total rift with people if they aren't on the same page with that. So I'm so glad that you guys are on the same page with that. So that happened at about 30, and you kind of went through your grief and were just motoring along in life, right?
Yeah, I went to therapy after that, and I was 30, so I didn't have even though I was 30, I was a full adult. I was a lawyer in New York. I didn't have the words because I didn't have the knowledge like we have now.
Our mental health knowledge, our education was totally non-existent.
And she was a great therapist, but it was 20 years ago. So she had the tools from 20 years ago. She didn't have the body keeps the score. So it was very different. And then after a while, I was like, all right, I think I'm fine. I didn't.
Did she focus kind of more on your current day situation?
Yes.
And what was going on? Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah.
The ability to find somebody who was a trauma-informed therapist back then was, even though Bessel van der Kolk wrote Body Keeps the Score about 20 years ago, he was a specialized children's trauma center. So that's what they were looking for. Your average everyday therapist was just helping you get through life.
Right. Exactly.
And not realizing that there are things deeper. So at some point you realized, hey, there might be something going on more than just dealing with my everyday anxiety and the things that are going on.
Yes.
And you said, so it was social media that
Yes.
kind of.
So the way people would describe feeling overwhelmed with their emotions and becoming emotionally dysregulated, and what it
Yeah.
stemmed from, because the wound stays in your body, even if you can't, you know, talk yourself out of it. You have to
Mhm.
heal on a somatic level, and it made so much sense to me. And then I read the book, and then I found my therapist, and it's been about a year, and even she said, like, you've come so far.
That's
It's amazing.
amazing. And so
Yeah.
how you said it was maybe like 5 years ago that you
Yes.
discovered,
Yeah.
like, the book and
Yes.
everything? Yeah, and
Yes.
it's one of the reasons that talk therapy doesn't work for a lot of
Yes.
people. I mean, we have one member of our community here who, that works for her and Soma doesn't, and that's why
Yeah.
it's so important that people know
Right.
about all of these different therapies that are
Right.
out there, coping skills, if you wanna call them. But talk therapy, a lot of times it's just it can be re-triggering for
Yeah.
people too.
Yes.
You're just kind of reliving the same thing, and what good does it do? I mean, I was
Right.
on that wheel for so long. It's like I could talk about my experience, but I wasn't dealing with
Right.
it,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Yes.
so you found this knowledge, you finally had the vocabulary to be able to talk about what was going on. And you said you actually went out looking then for
Yes.
your
Yeah.
specific
I
therapist.
specifically searched for someone who practiced specifically EMDR because of the way they talked about it in the book. I was like,
Right.
this sounds effective. Yeah.
What drew you to it?
Um, the way they talked about it in the book, that about how effective it was without
Mm.
being, um, like, at some point I was like, should I do ketamine? Should I get hypnotized?
Yeah,
Or like,
yeah,
let's start baby
exactly. Should
steps
I just
first.
ketamine, psilocybin? What should I do? MDMA is like, okay, now in microdosing at some places. Yeah.
Right. But then I was like, maybe I should start like baby steps here. So
Try
yeah.
something that's non-pharmaceutical or,
Yes.
non-substance related, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And for
Yep.
those who don't know, EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it is for people with PTSD, CPTSD, the studies show that it is in upwards of 80% effective for people. Those types of numbers they've only seen with also yoga for PTSD. I mean, that's amazing,
Yeah.
and yoga being another soma-based, body-based
Yes.
therapy. And so what was your experience like when you went first into that
So
EMDR session, or how
we
did she
talked a lot.
explain it?
The first sessions, we obviously had to talk. She had to have my whole history. So we
Mhm.
had a lot of sessions where we didn't. And then the first one, and it was actually over the phone. And then we met in person. And then that's when I started. And she does it with her finger.
Okay.
Um, and so one of the most effective sessions was, so I'm back in that first grade room, the teacher, the principal, all my classmates, and I have to focus on her finger. So I'm reliving the traumatic event, but I can't get overwhelmed because I'm focusing on her finger.
Right. So
And
for those of you who don't know, EMDR, it is a method of keeping your eyes focused either on somebody's finger, or I know that they're kind of like handholds that buzz, alternating your
oh,
left
I
and your
have
right.
those. Yeah.
Oh, you have those as well?
I call them my crazy bracelets. I was like, you're not crazy. But I have those, and I use them when I'm calm, like if I'm saying like my prayers. Because it's good to do it when you're calm, so that when you're feeling overwhelmed and you put them on, it'll like bring you back to that calm place. But yeah.
Yeah, so the EMDR is basically it's helping to get our brain signals going from left hemisphere to right hemisphere and connecting the two, because where our traumas and our memories are stored, it's based on one side of our brain.
Right. So this
And
is like bilateral stimulation while
right,
reliving
so
them. Yes.
as you're doing this, so you're following the finger, and then they take you back to that first,
Yeah.
you did like your first
Yes.
experience with trauma, like when you were 6 years
Yes.
old.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what was it like for you? How did you come out when you came out of it?
I was able to, so during we relived it, but I changed the script. So I'm like focusing on her. I feel not shame. I feel okay in my body. And then I'm reliving it. And so she does it where like I talk about, or I'm silent thinking about it. And then she stops and we talk about what came up. And then she does it again. And then we talk about what came up. And so the things that came up were I was reliving it, saying like, if I had, you know, the knowledge I have now, what would I be able to say to this teacher? I would be able to
Mm,
say like, whatever I did is not that bad.
right.
And you have do not like have, you can't take these measures where like you could do anything. You can't take me from my parents. You can't make me stay back. I'm smart. You can't make me
Right.
do any of the things that I fear. Whatever I did that was so bad that you are screaming is probably, I don't even remember what it was, but it probably wasn't that bad. And we should take the temperature down and discuss it. And so it helped me. I had been always so afraid of authority and afraid of getting in trouble.
Mhm.
And always, I'm going to be 50 years old. And I still, there's aspects of certain things where I feel like, why do I feel like a little girl? Like I'm a 50-year-old lawyer. Like this is ridiculous. But it's that core wound that creates those feelings. So it helped me so much to not feel like, to feel like an adult,
Yeah.
really. And so,
Instead of having those
yeah,
childhood feelings coming through.
yes. So afterwards, I was like, I feel like I kind of graduated, like I'm an adult. I am not afraid of you, teacher. I am not afraid of you, principal. There is nothing you can do that can harm me. And there's nothing I've done that warrants this. And
Yeah, I'm 6.
yes, yeah, yes,
Right? What could I
yeah,
possibly do?
yeah.
But I understand that feeling of those, especially the authority thing. And I told you,
Mhm.
raised in a military family, always afraid of getting in trouble. I mean, to this day, I could be going the speed limit, but if I see lights in the back, I'm like,
Yes.
I mean, literally, the
Yes.
last time I got pulled over, I was in a very rural area up north, Michigan, and I was going to a courthouse and I didn't know quite where it was located. And I was kind of running a little behind because I wasn't sure exactly where I was going. And I got pulled over for speeding because I had just gotten off the highway. So I was still like going 70, like at a 55. And the cop comes up and I've got tears streaming down my face because I'm like, oh shit, I'm in trouble and I'm going to be late for court and the judge is going to hate me. And the cop is just like, calm down, ma'am. The courthouse is like 3 miles straight ahead. It'll be okay. And he let me
Aw,
go, thankfully.
aw.
I know. So, but yeah, to this day,
Yes.
that feeling of just,
Yes, you're gonna get in
authority,
trouble.
you're going to get in
Yes.
trouble. Follows you.
Yes.
I have
Yeah.
not done EMDR myself, and I'm really still thinking about it because there's still, even as much as I talk about it and the coping skills that I've developed, I still feel that there are things that I can heal and things that
Yes.
come up. And, somebody mentioned here in the chat, and I hate that I can't have my mouse in at the same time. But Deaudrey said I can relate to it. I think my husband and I both have some medical trauma now. We're both getting triggered by random TV
Oh,
episodes.
interesting.
So you're
Yeah.
not the
Yes.
only one, right? I mean,
Those shows.
and
Yeah.
that
Huh.
reminds me, and I should have done this in the beginning,
I'm
but
sorry.
no, it's my fault. I should have put up my little banner, my trigger warning, because I always want people, first and foremost, you need to take care of you. And if anything we talk about is triggering, please back out, and even if, you can't come back, you can't do replay, that's totally okay. You have to protect yourself and, come back at a better day or, not at all. Right.
Yeah.
So
You mentioned something that was another thing that I 5 years ago, I didn't have these words. Like I now say, talk about feeling safe in my body. Like I didn't have those words for so
Yeah.
long. It was all in my brain. I was like, if only I could heal my, nervous thoughts. But I now remind myself that, if something causes me to get dysregulated, I'm like, I'm not being chased by a bear. I'm not being nothing. I'm okay. I'm safe in my body, and it helps me breathe. I notice a lot that that I'm not breathing if I'm nervous.
Yeah.
And so I love my bracelets, but I also have a ball. So like sometimes I'll like do this with the ball, and then it
Oh,
makes me catch my
okay.
breath, and I'm like, wow, like I wasn't breathing. Yeah.
Yeah. Breathing exercise. I love breathing exercises. They have been definitely one of my go-to
Yeah.
because when I get overwhelmed, I get paralyzed. Like I
Yes.
just, am like, okay, I'll just read and I can't do anything.
Yes.
You get stuck. And I find myself even to this day, that's one of the things that I struggle with most is getting overwhelmed by thoughts and feelings,
Yes.
very easily, about not being good enough. And,
Yeah. Yes.
being, whether it's, my work or whether it's the channel or, whatever. And that breathing exercises, being able to calm our system down, bring us back to baseline, and just, you know, bring us to present and go, you know what, I'm not on the streets, right? I have a home. I can still, I got food in the pantry. I'm okay.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not a therapist. I'm not a professional medical, person, and I never pretended to be.
Right.
And so whatever I present with my trauma, and the channel is, all from me, is from my perspective, just like, you're
Yes.
sharing with you from your perspective,
Yeah.
and it's going to be okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Um, I think particularly for those of us like you who came from a background where we didn't feel real safe, and we were constantly in that anxious stage, whether it was from trauma, from the actual trauma, or people just being anxious, but wanting to fit in, wanting to do the right thing, and always second guessing yourself. And you know um I don't did you have any social anxiety
Yes.
along
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah. Yep.
Dealing with your peers and things?
Yeah. I think so. People would say I'm very outgoing, but yeah, but I think I did. Yeah. I mean, I was lucky enough to have good friends along the way that helped, and I make friends very easily. Um, but I did have social anxiety, especially when I worked in an office. Like
Mm,
it was like physically uncomfortable to be there and to
office
have to like,
politics.
yes, and to have to like being a lawyer and you have to like talk and explain yourself. I would be like so nervous. And would be like, I guess that's just me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's like you have to justify your existence,
Yeah.
constantly. It's
Yeah. It was
a
very
different
hard.
type of, yeah, anxiety that goes along with that. 100%. I understand that.
Yeah.
Um, I want to talk about your writing and how you got into that, because we do talk about journaling or even just video chatting with yourself, or I say talk to a wall, but there's just power in putting whatever you're feeling into words.
Yes.
And, especially being able to talk out loud, it just makes things real, right? On a
Yes.
different level than it is just thinking it in your head, sitting there
Yeah.
thinking it in your head. So getting it out verbally or getting it out writing. When did you really start getting into your writing?
I was still in New York, and I was so disenchanted with work and was just like, I can't do this for another 30 years. And I was like, what is interesting to me? I started working with a career coach, and I was like, what's interesting to me is people and people's stories. And I love writing. I became a lawyer because I was like not good at math and science. So I love history. I love English class. I love writing.
Archaeology, yes,
Yeah, oh, I
history.
love it. Yes. So
Absolutely.
so I started working with this coach and thinking like what's really are my passions, and it's people and people's stories. I love stories. And so then I met my husband, and he was in a creative field, and I was like, it blew my mind that like people actually did these jobs that were like creative, and it was not encouraged my whole life. Growing up in the 80s, I think is part of it. Growing up where I grew up specifically, and then my parents specifically, it was just, I think I was always a creative person. It was not encouraged though. So
The
when I met
80s
my
were the tech industry. It was
yes,
about, I mean, I remember specifically going, what do you want to be? I said, oh, I'm going to be like in international politics. I'm going to wear power suits. I'm going to have power lunches, right? I mean, that was
yes,
our era growing
yes.
up.
100%. I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer. I think one summer I watched Divorce Court like all summer, and then I saw the movie Legal Eagles, and I was like, this looks fun. Like I wanted to be like, I was in 5th grade, and I'm like, I'm going to be a lawyer. And then it was not for me. And I'm proud to be a lawyer. Actually, I think maybe someday I'll do pro bono. I want to help people, but so I don't regret it. But at that time, it was very, very hard. And so I met my husband, and he tells me he comes up with the ideas for TV commercials. Like I was like, that's a job. Like it just sounded too fun. Like I thought work had to be like horrible.
Right.
So he was like, yeah. And so he kind of opened my mind to the idea of doing something creative. And so I started taking writing classes. There was something in New York City at the time called Media Bistro. And I took an on-camera reporting class, and I took a how to write your first novel class. And so then it was so helpful. It taught me how to outline a novel and how to fill it in from there. And and so I started writing my first book, and it was it's the story of a single 29-year-old Manhattan lawyer who's guided in her dreams by her dead Italian grandparents. So all of my 20s, 30s, 40s, I've been dealing, my whole life I've been dealing with anxiety. But one thing that's brought me great comfort is getting signs from my loved ones who've passed. And so I was like, I channeled it into a book, and then a second book, and my third book's about reincarnation, but it's all in the same spiritual sphere.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
So when was your first book published? How old were you?
In 2016, I was 40.
Wow.
Yeah. So
awesome.
it was April 2016. So I was going to be 41 that year. Yeah.
That is so fabulous.
Yeah.
And then when did you do your second book?
And then that came out in 2020. Yeah.
Okay.
So the third one, I was like, I'm never going to write another one. And then thanks to social media, in that class, that novel writing class in 2008, I met these great girls, and we became friends on Facebook. And then over the years, like you see each other on Facebook. And then in 2021, one of them's like, do you want to do a writing group? Like we'll meet every other Thursday on Zoom. And so we've been doing it for 4 years. And thanks to them, I wrote my thanks to them and Poldark and triggering my trauma. I wrote my third book.
I got my muse.
Yes. Yeah. So the third one, I'm going to, it's finished, and I have to submit it eventually. I've, of course, started the fourth one. But yes. So, and I find it very therapeutic.
When do you think your third one will come out?
I don't know. It depends the path that it takes. So we'll see. I have to really it's finished, and it's been edited, and I worked with an editor. But I have to give it the final once over, and then I will submit it, and then who knows? Yeah.
But you've got your idea for your fourth one already.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what's that going to be about, if you're willing to say?
The fourth one, yeah. So the third one is an English maid falls in love with a gentleman barrister in England in the 1800s, kind of like Poldark. And then they meet again in 2004 in an investment bank in New York. Oh. She works in the office, and he's an investment banker. And sometimes when I describe it, people are like, are they each other's ancestors? I'm like, no, they have none of the same DNA. They are the same souls, though. They meet again.
Okay.
140, 50 years later. And then the second book is a divorcee in 1963, New Jersey, is in a kind of love triangle. And then the same souls meet again in Kansas City. So I had to take a trip to Kansas City. I don't know where that came from, but the character is the guy owns a liquor company through his family, and then he started his own energy drink company. So I was like, I don't know, felt like it should be in the Midwest.
There you go.
So yeah, and they meet again. And so it's all about if you don't learn the lessons the first time, your soul
Right.
will keep coming back until it learns what it has to learn.
So
Yeah.
that's your fourth book, you said?
Yeah.
The Divorcee?
Yeah.
That's fabulous.
Yeah. Do you write?
Well, I have
Well,
just
I know that you're,
done.
yes.
Right, yeah. I was always a good writer,
Yeah.
growing up. I didn't really enjoy writing because
Mhm.
I would get stuck.
Mm.
I do once it started flowing, it was,
Yeah.
good, and my writing was always excellent. But I started my law career as research attorney for the Court of Appeals. So I was writing, 70-page memos, every other day or whatever. So that's kind of how I got into regular writing. And I didn't really even think about creative writing, because that creative part of me has never been nurtured.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm very much my
Get
father's
that.
child in terms of that type A, personality, became a
Mhm.
lawyer,
Yep.
just my mom is the artist, my brother is the artist,
Mm.
I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. That is
Yeah.
the running joke in my family. So it's like, and my mom wrote a novel, a romance novel when I was growing up.
Aw.
Never did anything with it because she,
Yeah.
wasn't
Aw.
secure in herself. And again, my dad's a military guy, so it's not really something that
Right.
mom's like, yeah, no, it's just for me. But she was the Harlequin
Aw.
romance novel type, growing up
Aw,
type of thing.
yeah.
So I gotta ask her if she still has that manuscript somewhere. That
Yeah.
would be just an awesome thing to kind of pull back out
Yes.
again and see. I'll
Yeah,
ask her about
absolutely.
that because I remember
Is it
seeing
on
it.
a
I never.
typewriter?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, so it's gonna be somewhere.
Yeah, you would think,
I hope
hopefully. I
so,
mean,
I
my
hope
mom is
so.
kind of a pack rat, so and that's the always, tension between my parents, it's
Yeah.
like keep everything, get rid of everything, right?
Yes.
And I think that's one of the reasons that my mom's so hesitant to move. She's got 40 years worth of stuff in the house.
Aw,
You
yeah, of
have to
course.
go through and downsize to something else, right?
Yes.
But so yeah, this was doing this actually, this channel was I think my first real foray into creating something and
Yes.
doing something, and through that and through the support that I've had here, and how welcoming everyone's been and supportive. I mean, this community is just, absolutely fabulous. And so I did one of our subs here, Crystal Phoenix, she nominated me for Women Changing the World Global Awards, and I ended up winning in April for Women in Journalism and Media. And that the trophy is on its way. I did get a confirmation finally. It is on its way. It's left Australia.
Nice.
It's coming. It's coming. So I'm excited to show you guys that.
That's exciting.
But
And then
through
there's an
that,
anthology, right?
the
Yeah.
Women Changing the World organization does, and I think they put out like 2 or 3 anthologies a year, and they all have a different theme.
Right.
And the finalists from the awards got offered a chance to put forth their story as to what they would write about, and then they chose the people that they wanted to be in the book. And so we've got 20 authors that are writing chapters for this book called Begin It Now. And I just did a post on it today. I just posted it before we went live here. So you can see the front cover and what it's going to look like. And yeah, I've just submitted my first chapter. We'll have our first edit rounds coming back in a few weeks, and then we'll finalize it.
And it's your story. It's a nonfiction. Is it an
It's my
essay?
it's my story from childhood trauma through healing, and how that journey of recovery went, and kind of, goes through a lot of the things that we talk about. I talk about the types of trauma that I had and the questions that filled me as I was, going through that. But talking about having those first therapists, and just dealing with whatever was on the surface, and nobody ever realizing that there
Right.
might be some other reason as to why I'm depressed as a 13-year-old, or
Right.
I'm incredibly anxious, and I can't connect with my peers, or
Right.
they didn't have the knowledge at that point. And it
Right.
wasn't until my early 20s that I came across somebody who really even recognized the trauma as trauma,
Mhm.
and even that person didn't have the skills to take me any further. So yeah, I was in my 30s before I found somebody who had worked with trauma victims before, trauma survivors before, and could actually give me some of the tools, but even more, just was able to go through that stuff and realize that, hey, listen, that this is kind of the root of your
Yes.
problems. And I remember the therapist actually, and I didn't talk about this in the book, but she drew a tree and then she drew the trunk and the roots. And she said, here's the tree and all the leaves and stuff. And she's like, this is all your stuff that you're dealing with now, right? And she said, these are your feelings, and kind of basically she was explaining the trauma effects. And then she got to the roots and she goes, these are your childhood memories. And she goes, this is where everything comes from.
Yes.
And that was the first, I was like, what? Because we were also groomed, I think, in that logic of don't blame your parents for your mistakes, right? That,
Yes.
okay, they did the best they could, and you are your own person and you've made your own choices. And so there was always a disconnect between who you are now and who you were then, or what you came from. And now we realize that that is 100% false, right?
Yes. Yes. So true. I remember when we were in our 20s, there was a famous article it was like kind of like a poem. And one of the lines was, good or bad, your childhood's over. And I remember thinking like, all right, like, I guess that's how it is. Like, that's what a mature person thinks, like, good or bad, your childhood's over. Okay. But now I'm like, of course it's over, but that doesn't mean that we forget it, or that it doesn't matter, or that it doesn't lay the foundation for your nervous system for the rest of your life. So
That it doesn't
through it.
Right, that it doesn't affect you, and that everything that you were feeling, you just carry on into adulthood. And you can't just choice it away, by just, okay, yeah, I'm going to make a different choice now. It's those, as you said earlier, and as we've learned, trauma lives within you. And it isn't until you can actually address that trauma, you can address the symptoms of trauma. And that's, kind of what the whole pharmacological, era of mental health was. And, I don't know if you got stuck in it, but I certainly did, and it was like, okay, we'll just throw another depression medicine on it, or, we'll combine it with this one, or we'll take you off that one. And it was, and I love The Body Keeps the Score talks about this so well, that it was in the prevailing thought within medicine. It's like, okay, now we've identified, we got the DSM, right? We can diagnose you as to what you are, and then we can give you a pill to fix it.
Mm-hmm. And I had never been medicated until my late 30s. I was at brunch with a friend and she took a Lexapro, and I was like, what's that do? And she's like, it helps with my anxiety. I was like, I need that. So I went to my doctor and I'm like, I think I need Lexapro. And I was prescribed it, and it destroyed my metabolism. And it was like I was on it for a year, and it was like the year before I moved to LA. So then I moved to LA. I get this thing with AfterBuzz TV for Maria Menounos. I'm on camera, and I felt horrible about myself. I didn't gain that much weight, but I still gained weight for me, and I already have like fat phobia. I don't weigh myself at the doctor. That's a whole other thing.
No.
So
that again comes from, I think that comes from our era, doesn't it?
100%.
I mean,
the diet culture issues that I still deal with.
Yes.
So I eventually was like, it's not helping me that much. It screwed up my metabolism. And I remember going to my doctor and just being like, forget it. Like, it's not doing anything for me. Like, I just think this is just my personality. I remember saying that. And so then it took another like few years to get to figure out really what was going on.
Right. It's just me, and this is, who I am. And I have to make smarter choices. I have to, we think we can think our way out of it. Right.
Exactly.
And we 100% can't. And
nope.
That is so true, that it's the one thing about social media now, that if you're invested in it for the right reasons, you can find places like this where you've got peer support, or, just like we're doing now, trying to educate people as to what trauma
Yes.
actually is. It's so much more than I think a lot of people think about.
Yes.
I had somebody on once and we were just kind of talking, and all of a sudden they were talking about their childhood and kind of what their environment was like, from an Italian, it was Thindu, who you probably know.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah. So Thindu was on one time and we were
Aw.
talking and stuff, and he's just like, I think I have childhood trauma. And it was just like the light bulbs went off.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
like, because we just don't think about it in those terms.
Yes,
And talk about it.
absolutely.
I wanted to pull up a comment somebody had made before and just said, one thing, welcome Indigo. It's one thing that changed my life is starting my week on Sunday. So Monday is just another day of the week. And because I look positively on Monday, work doesn't stress me
nice.
out as much.
I like that. That's a good one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of us on Sunday are like, oh God, we're going to start work on Monday. What do I got to do for the week? And
Yes.
that's an awesome strategy. I wanted to go back through here and see. I know I missed a whole lot of people talking. Jimena says, she was important to you, talking about your cousin. It's only natural you feel this way even years later. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you, Jimena.
And I think it was Indigo who said it's not only about blood, it's about the connection that you have, and the quality of your bond. And you said that your sister and the person you considered your aunt were best friends.
My mom and my mom and my aunt.
Right. Yes. So I mean,
and they still are. Yes, my mom, Jamie, was my mom's godchild. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So such a connection there, and that it shows how important family, is to you, and that, and we talk here. There's a lot of people who have lost all their family through, whether it's they're just no longer around or because of boundaries we have to set with certain people. No going low contact or no contact with some people has become necessary because of certain traumas, but it doesn't mean that you can't have a found family.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I hate this trackpad. I'm not very good at dealing with the trackpad, and I can't have my mouse in at the same time because I don't have enough. I want to say hi to Joetown Jack stopped by. The judge stopped by. Thank you so much for being here today. That is wonderful. And Jimena, hello. Welcome to you. One of my dearest friends. The judge says, my soul isn't coming back. I won't allow it.
I get that. I say that to, and I felt that way for so long. I was like, it's so like, this is the hard part. Like, I'm not doing this again. And my mother says it all the time, but it's what like when we get to the other side, we look at our life and we're souls who like want to keep growing and evolving, and we like keep wanting to do it again, like go on the roller coaster again. I hope this is my last.
Well,
that's right. I get it.
It's so funny because, my dad was raised Catholic, Polish Catholic. He ended up converting to Judaism when he met my mom, and really just because of my mom, but he never took the Catholic out of him. There were things he was disillusioned with in the church, and so he was just like, yeah, I'll convert. But I remember years later, we'd be at Christmas. We'd still have Christmas because my mom loves the Christmas tree. And, he'd bring up different things that he did as, a Catholic kid, and going to midnight mass and all of that kind of stuff. And just such a different view of your soul and what happens, with that as you go on. And There definitely is in Judaism an idea that your soul does continue on after this. And while I don't practice Judaism as much anymore, I definitely still believe in kind of like the universe. And people say, you can substitute God for universe for, however you want to believe in things. But thinking that there's something after this, and that we may, appear again 150 years from now. Who knows, right? See if you get it right again,
That's funny, because I was obviously raised, I'm Italian, I was raised Catholic, and I was very religious, like growing up. Like I found great comfort in faith. And my parents were, like, even high school, my mom would like drive me to church and then drop me off and then pick me up an hour. Like my parents were not religious at all.
Oh my gosh, that is so interesting.
I was like very like, I think it made me feel safe.
Yeah.
And so, but in addition to that, it also scared me a little. Like like you think of God as like this old, like white man who's like giving you the sting of disapproval. And now I say God looks like, to me, God, for everyone it's different. God to me looks like RuPaul. Like there's something about RuPaul. And I don't watch RuPaul's Drag Race.
That is probably the most unique person I've heard.
He just
represent for you.
Loves him. Like he's someone who, I see him and his energy is he's very comfortable with himself. He has no shame. He is pure love. And I think, I don't watch the show, so maybe
the acceptance and the non-judging of
and
everybody.
Loves people as they are. Yes.
Yeah. 100%. That's definitely, I think, coming from a religious background and with my dad with the military and stuff, there was an expectation that certain people are like certain things, right? And we fit everybody into a box. And as we've grown now, we realize that we can't do that. Not everybody wants to fit into a certain box. I mean, for some people, there is they derive a sense of comfort from it being defined a certain way, or the religion, it gives them comfort. But for other people, that can be totally constraining to who they are and to what they feel. And definitely one of the things that we practice here is acceptance of anybody for whoever they are, whether you're a he, she, they, whatever. Jimena she says she's studying Akashic Records right now and past lives. So she is very passionate about these topics. I love it. I interviewed someone recently. Read your books.
Oh, thank you so much.
If you could, the one thing I didn't do is if you could email me the names of your books.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you have, I'll also put, if you can link to your podcast. I'd love to put you link to your podcast up so people can check out the past things you've done on there. I'll also put your YouTube channel up. I know you haven't done as much with that, but you have so much more with your podcast. So I want to put that up.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm so excited to see where Jimena goes with this. She is learning from a group of people about the Akashic Records and so many things. And these are people who have really, I think you and her would connect wonderful for her channel. She's on at 2 p.m. Eastern. Okay. So 1 Central. So what, it'll be 11.
Okay, 11.
Right. But you could see all her past things. But she's very much into, she calls it the hippy dippy stuff.
I love it.
So I think that you would absolutely love that. So I will get links up to Fern's stuff here.
Thank you.
In the coming day. As soon as she sends that to me, I will definitely put that up.
Thank you so much. I appreciate
it. I'm scrolling back here down to see if there's anything. Jimena says she's working with the past lives and readings.
Nice.
I read tarot, so it was only natural for me to get there. Yeah, she's an amazing tarot reader. She has done mine so many times, and this year, and it is always the same message. So obviously, it has a plan for me this year. It's always about new beginnings. I see 1111s everywhere I go. Almost every day I will look at the clock and see 1111 or 1212. So new beginnings. And every single reading she's always done with me has been, this is it for you. Stay on your path. You know what you
Nice.
want to do. And, it is about getting this message out. I would love to get into the speaking circuit, speaking,
Yes.
publicly about trauma and mental health issues and whatnot. So that's kind of my next step, is
I
to
love
break
it.
there. And, the doc review, we talked about that. My day job, it pays the bills right now, but I'd love to have something else
Keep
that would pay the
going.
bills.
To get
And
on the speaker circuit, that would be amazing.
yeah, we
This
there
award
was,
is probably very helpful. That
it,
was meant to be too.
I tell you, and you can watch my short from it. My jaw was hanging down here because they had the pictures and the people's names, and they did honorable mention, and then third and second. And Dr. Terry Rouse, who's written a gazillion books and is an international speaker, and she had already won an award in a different category, and she was second. And I thought, yeah, well, I made it to the 10 finalists, 12 finalists, right? And I was just absolutely, I said, you know what, I'm gonna be thrilled with that. I distinctly remember, you're gonna laugh at this. So yeah, so when I won, I was just like, you've got to be effing kidding me. I'm like, I have this channel with, at that point, not even 500 subscribers. I mean, to this day, I only have like 625. I mean, I'm still like this big in the YouTube universe, right? I mean, it's, comparatively speaking, but I was just absolutely shocked. I'm like, gosh, well, somebody must have seen something with this. But I'll tell you, I got to the 12 finalists. We were like a week before the winners were going to be announced. And I happened to be up with my son, and in the morning, it's like 4 a.m, because he goes to work at like 4:30, ridiculously early. And I'm sitting on the couch. He's sitting in the chair eating his cereal. And they just put up on LinkedIn all of the finalists with like their links. And so you could see, like, this person made this magazine and this person put out this book. And I'm like I'm reading all of it down, and I'm looking at my son, and he finishes his cereal. He gets up and he pats my shoulder and he goes, well, good luck with that, Mom. I mean, it's just, I've got this itty bitty YouTube channel. There's these people doing these amazing, global things. And so
but they're all at the like 80% of their journey, their career, and like this is everyone's like,
maybe
they could see it. They could see it
different from what the other people are doing. I mean, some of these people were doing just mind-blowing things like breast cancer research and things of that nature, and there's a ton of different categories, but it was it was a shocker. But there were very few people from a trauma background.
Yeah, and the timing is right, because now we're talking about like if it was 10 years, even 10 years ago, it might not have been the right time.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, people now are just realizing,
Yes.
as we're trying to demonstrate here, that trauma comes from so many different places, right? I mean, we've had Guy Bandy from Creating Change on, which he talked about his medical journey and the medical trauma that he suffered, and how music became a wonder in his life. And there's a lady who has cerebral palsy who I'm hoping to have on later on this month. And we're going to talk about sexual assault and people with disabilities. Mm-hmm. And the gentleman I need to connect with again, his name is Chris Malazewski, and we had him on, and he is a mass shooting survivor of the July 2022 Highland Park, so Chicago,
the parade,
4th of July parade.
Yep,
and he was actually he was the Parks and Rec director at that time. And so he was in charge of organizing that whole parade. And so he was on, and we talked about his experience with that. And, so trauma, it comes from so many different places, and having these people here to believe in what we're doing, and being so supportive of each other and so welcoming. I mean, we get a new person in and everybody is jumping on saying, hello, and even if you don't think you've suffered trauma yourself. And that's why the second prong of my goal here is just trauma related education, so
Yes.
that we can all learn about what it is and how to support somebody, because the chances are of either you being a victim of some sort of trauma at some time in your lifetime or coming across somebody who has are more likely than not, right?
Yes.
And one of the things that I talk about in my book chapter is, my parents didn't have the skills to be able to support me
Right.
when I disclosed.
Right. Of course not. Yeah.
It just wasn't discussed.
That year, right. Those
You know,
years, right. Yeah.
right. And so nowadays, being able to have those sorts of skills and being able to say, well, what do you need? Because a lot of survivors, you come out with your story, or and people are just like,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right.
It makes them uncomfortable and they just don't know what to do. So I think now I would imagine you being in the place that you are, if somebody was to come to you and say, I had this traumatic experience, you're in such a better position to be able to save space for them, right?
Yes.
And be able to listen to them. And it's so important that we talk about and we share our stories so that people can then take that with them. And even just talking to somebody else about ways to support a trauma survivor, right? And just being able to continue getting that message out. And I'm looking at the chat. Amanda says, I told her she would win.
I know.
She said no.
She called it.
It was meant to be. She did. And she absolutely did. And I'll tell you, I had this niggling in the back of my brain that like maybe I could win it, but it was so small of a voice, because it was like this big, right? That I was just like, okay, whatever. But Jimena I don't have Facebook. They banned me for whatever reason. They don't think I'm a living being, despite I've taken the pictures, I've done all the things, but I have no appeal. So I have no access to Facebook anymore. So they were doing they were doing the ceremony through Facebook. So Jimena was doing it for me. And Mike says, I watched the award ceremony live, thanks to Jimena, because she was doing it. I had chills when you heard your name. It was an awesome feeling. Thank you. Yes, we had quite a crowd who was watching it. We streamed the whole thing, the whole ceremony live, because it was in London. It was like a Thursday morning here or something. And it was wonderful that we had everybody here and to be able to share that with everybody.
That's awesome.
Hey, Misha, how are you doing? Welcome. Misha has been a great supporter. Awakened at the Looking Glass. She's been a wonderful supporter. She's been here from the beginning, and she's does a lot of things behind the scene. And she actually did our intro. So that intro that you saw, Misha did that.
It's awesome.
And if you watch our outro, the outro song, Jimena actually did that for us.
Oh, nice.
I don't have a video to go along with it yet. We're working on it. But the song is wonderful, and
nice.
You'll hear that when we go to the end. Misha says, we were all rooting for you, but I think we all knew you were going to win, Mac. You have done amazing for the world of trauma and the sassy community. Thank you, girl. Thank you. I appreciate it. So I know I mentioned to you, and I just want to mention to everybody else. So I did do a post today, August 15th, which is Friday. So a week from yesterday at 7:00 in the evening, we are going to do my book raiser fundraiser to get me to Vancouver and all the lodging and expenses that go there. Jimena is going to be there, and it's Guy Bandy's going to be there with his guitar. I am putting up 5 of my books, autographed signed copies of my books. So anybody who donates, you donate a certain amount, we'll have it all laid out for you. You donate a certain amount, Guy will play a song for you, or Clementa will do an oracle reading for you, or you can do a different amount and she'll do a private tarot reading for you. You can connect with her behind the scenes, and she'll do tarot readings. So, and we've got a bunch of other people who are coming on, who are offering up their services as well. So it should be a great time. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. You can check out the community post. The link to the actual event is in there as well. And if you've already donated, thank you very much. And if anybody can, if you could share that post out on any of your social medias, I greatly appreciate it, because that's the only way we're going to reach people, is have people share it and encourage those people to share it out. Doesn't even matter if they're even thinking about attending, just keep sharing, and hopefully we'll be able to raise the bulk of getting me to Vancouver. So like I said, it was going to be New York City, and I had it all planned out. I told Tommy I was going to crash his couch.
Oh yeah, you could have gone to the stoop.
Yeah, exactly. I said, I'm sorry, but I'm taking your couch for the time. And he's just like, okay, I can drive you into Midtown into so you drive me in, drop me off at the conference, and then come pick me up, right? I said, I had it all planned out. And then they changed it to Vancouver. So
you have your passport ready?
I do. I got my passport. Yeah. I was, it had been over 10 years or over 5 years, and you couldn't do it online. Right. So I had to take my original birth certificate in, and thankfully the guy, I don't know if you guys know, if you do your passport in the United States, you have to take all your original documentation. And he said, you're going to get the passport in the mail. And he said, then later they mail your birth certificate back. Thank God he said that. Otherwise, I would have totally been panicking. Yeah, I would have thought you put it with my passport. Yeah. Right. I'm like, oh, great. Because I was born in Cherry Point, North Carolina. It's this little Havelock is the city. The pain in the butt to try and get it from this, podunk place, and just like, oh geez. So thankfully, I came back. So I do have my passport. I'm very excited. Good. A very good friend who lives in Canada, her and her husband are actually retiring to Victoria, which is just across the water from Vancouver. So I'm actually planning on flying in and spending a few days with her, and then we're going to take the ferry across to Vancouver and then fly out of Vancouver. And it actually was like within, I think it was like $50 to $100 more to do that trip. Yes. I thought multi-city, oh my God, this is just going to be astronomical. But it wasn't. I was so amazed. So so that's my plan, at least.
Yeah. So, it'll happen.
Yeah. So we're doing that to get me there. So yes. So Fern, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
This has been wonderful. I would love to have you back sometime and talk more about soma exercises.
Yes,
there's so much that you do with that, right? Yes. And you're really into that. We had somebody on once who was, we talked about it more from the clinical aspect, but I'd love to speak to you just kind of on the practical aspect. Yes. How do you integrate that into your everyday life?
Yes, I got my bracelets here. I got my little squeezy ball here. Yes.
Can you show your bracelets? Can you show what they look like?
These are the bracelets. So it's like the same thing as EMDR, but the bilateral stimulation. And so they buzz.
They buzz.
Yes. And then this, because I don't always she says if you're feeling stressed out, you should put them on because it'll
bring you back to present.
Into your body. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of when I'm really stressed out, I'm like, I don't have time for strap them on. I'm too stressed. But this is very helpful. She's like, this is the same thing, the bilateral. If you go like this. And so when I do it, I notice that I'll end up taking a breath. I get over that breath hump, and I'm like, oh my God, I wasn't breathing. Yeah. This is oddly very helpful.
Awesome. Yeah. I'd love to have you back on and we can talk about some of those things. Where did you get the bracelets from, if you don't mind me asking?
I bought them from her, from my therapist.
From your therapist? Yeah. That's fabulous.
My husband got it at Target.
Well, yeah, I mean, and guys, go to the dollar store. I'm sure you can get something similar, just
Yes.
anything to be able to go back and forth with your hands. Oh, thank you very much. Jimena put up your
Thank you,
YouTube channel
Jimena.
up there.
Oh, thank you.
So you guys can check Fern's YouTube channel out. She's doing more and more with it every week.
Yes.
And we want to help her grow on that. And
Thank you.
yeah, just send me the names of the books that you've gotten published so
will.
far and your podcast link. And I would
I
be happy.
will.
I'll put that in our description, guys. So you'll be able to see that here in a day or so.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I'm so happy we connected.
Absolutely. And I did just before you came on, I was like, hey, I'm on because I was a little late getting on. So you'll see a text from a weird number. It's me.
Okay.
It says I'm on.
Okay.
That's all it says. So now you know like that's for me. So
Okay. Sounds good.
oh, great. Have a
Thank
great
you.
rest of your
You
weekend,
too.
Fern. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank
all
you,
right.
everyone.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, guys, that is it. I will definitely get those up. If you do look at the thumbnail, you can see the names of the book because the picture I have of Fern is holding up both of her books, and they are under her book name, Fern Ronay. And you can see the titles on both of them. So that is on the thumbnail. So that reminds me, I could probably just copy it from there, and I can probably link it to Amazon or something. That's most likely what we'll do. But I do want to get a link to her podcast because she's been doing that for so much longer, and you guys will be able to check out the podcast that she's been doing and all the different topics that she covers there. Absolutely, Jimena, you guys would be wonderful together. She'd be a wonderful guest for you to have on to talk about your area of things with reincarnation and, Akashic records and all that kind of stuff. That would definitely be in your wheelhouse, right? So guys, I hope to see you Wednesday. It'll be our next live. I'm not sure about the topic yet. I'm still working on getting my August set. I've got a couple of people I'm talking to, and I'm waiting for them to kind of pick a date before I set something. So I'm not sure if I'm going to have a guest on Wednesday or not. But then Friday, we will have the book fundraiser at 7 p.m. Join us. It'll be a lot of fun. Even if you're just joining us for community, we'll be probably having some games and, ask me any question you want, and just a lot of different people on. It'll be a wonderful, wonderful time. And then we'll be back on next Saturday at 3 p.m. So if you haven't hit that like on your way out, guys, I'd really appreciate it. Remember to hit that subscribe button. You hit the bell, the all for notifications. You'll get all of our notifications. And remember that you are worthy, you are valuable, and you are loved just the way you are for who you are. I love you guys. Hugs and love for me. Surviving together, never alone. Enjoy the outro. Jimena says karaoke for Friday. I think that's a wonderful idea. I think that's a wonderful. Somebody needs to figure out how to do that. I can't, but somebody figure that out. I will definitely do it. All right, guys. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Through the fire, through the rain, we have walked through endless pain. But we stand, we rise again. Stronger now, we break the chain. Surviving together, hearts open wide, lifting each other through every tide. The past may have shaped us, but it won't define. Together we heal, together we shine. every tear, every scar tells the story of who we are. Not just survive